now.
Okay, so welcome back, and we'll give folks time to jump back on and continue with our pruning demonstration here on Facebook Live. Uh, yes, my name is Kerry Hefner. I am the area horticulturist here in Washita Parish. I also cover Morehouse and Union parishes. And we are out in the big orchard now, what I call the big orchard. We are in southern Washita Parish. In fact, the Caldwell Parish line is not far from here. And one thing I want to point out to you is just how differently the soils are here. This is going to be a much different soil type than what the smaller trees are growing on over at the other place. This is some of that infamous Rustin series sandy loam. Great for growing just about anything from fruit trees. We grew some beautiful watermelons out here last summer right under the apple trees. We were intercropping watermelon and apple trees. It worked out really well. So I think what I'll do is just show you some of the tools I'm going to be using out here on these larger trees. Of course, I got my trusty hand pruners. This is just a very simple pair of bypass pruners. For the larger branches, nice pair of loppers. And then for really heavy duty things, a pruning saw. And it's collapsible, which is nice because this blade is very sharp. And we'll use that on some of the larger branches that are too big for the loppers or the hand pruners. And so I don't know that we'll need it, but if we do, we have it. And then if we want to control height, I have a pair of pole pruners that I'll show you later if we get to that point. So if people are joining us, we'll resume. So out here, these are older trees by and large. We still have a few young ones, but we're going to concentrate on the older trees. This is a Stamen Apple, named for Dr. Stamen of Kansas. He started the Kansas Horticultural Society back in the 1800s. And we planted this on camera for our television segment that we do every Tuesday 4 years ago with absolutely zero expectations. Okay, Stamen would not have been one of my first choices for planting out here. For one thing, it's a triploid, so you have to have a pollinator, another variety for pollination, but also it's kind of a higher chill apple. This one does best at about 800 chill hours. So hopefully this winter we'll get 800 chill hours. But it has exceeded expectations, and this thing, as you can see, is just a mess, really. So we've got to really give it a good haircut here. It looks like we have a couple of things going on. We have some real vigorous verticals that are sort of competing with each other. And again, my goal is going to be to get this down to a central leader system, or as close to a central leader system as we can get. We also have some smaller verticals, and this is all 1 year growth. And so we're going to take these down. We might see if we can kind of trick some of these into producing fruit for us. One thing I want to point out on this stamen tree is that a couple years ago I started training this branch with some baling twine and some pieces of old hose that I would just wrap on the branch right here and pull the branch down. We've got a very nice vertical scaffold branch right here. That's a very good crotch angle. So this branch is going to be a lot stronger than something like, the one back here that is trying to go almost completely vertical. Even though it looks like this is second year growth, looks like it does have some spurs on it right there. So I'm really pleased with how horizontal this branch is, but I want to do something about all this 1 year growth on top. So we're going to be addressing that. And this is another branch I trained last year. It's flattened out very nicely. So again, our goal is to keep the canopy as cleared out as possible so we can maximize light penetration and maximize air circulation. Now out here, if you could see all around us on this property, we are almost surrounded. Well, there are several eastern red cedars around here. So cedar apple rust, which I have seen out here, is something we have to really watch. So that means I'm checking the cedar trees for the galls that cause cedar apple rust. I'm also looking for it on my apple trees too. It shows up in a slightly different way on the apple trees than on the cedar trees. So all part of a good IPM is I'm looking at both host plants so I can head anything off at the pass should problems come up. And fortunately, no problems have come up. So these trees are doing very well. And so where to start? Well, I'm going to start with cleaning out the interior. Anything growing straight up, okay, is going to come off. And on these verticals, yeah, let's go ahead and take those off. They're growing up into the canopy of the tree, and as much as possible, I want to go ahead and clear out the canopy. See how some of these branches are growing back into the canopy. They just need to come on out entirely. So now I said on some of them I might see if we can trick them into putting out flower spurs later on. So I'm going to leave about 3 buds and see what they do. And if I decide later that they need to come off, I can come back later and do that. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. So about there. Pow. And this one needs to go entirely. So, okay. And let's see. Yep, let's go ahead and take this 1-year growth off. Let me jump around here on this side. So, okay. Now again, this is all 1-year growth. Excellent material for grafting. So you can save what you prune off if you want to get into grafting and propagate your own fruit trees. You can have a lot of material left over. Let's see now. Okay, so those were thinning cuts. Looks like I might need to do a heading cut or 2 here. One thing we'll do is we'll start training this branch down like this so it's a little more horizontal. But we'll also head it back to, let's see, about there. I want a bud facing me. And so there's a bud facing me just right above my thumbnail right there. So heading, let's see, so a heading cut there. And let's see, we've got 2 that are kind of close together here. Let's head that back off right there. This one was not only getting awfully close to this lateral, but it was also growing straight up. So that's what we don't want.
What materials or method are you using to train the branches to be more horizontal?
Okay, so when we train, I'm kind of doing a homemade method. We could go to a local garden center and buy materials to use to get the branches to grow more horizontally. But right now with the situation with the pandemic, I don't want to go out to a crowded store. So I'm using kind of a homemade method. I'm using baling twine and pieces of old rubber hose. So reuse, recycle. So I thread the baling twine through the hose and let's see if it'll do it. There it is. And so I wrap that around the branch like so and pull the branch down and then tie it off to a brick or a cement block, something like that under the tree. And it's good to go. And I leave it like that all season through the growing season. And by the next year, it has assumed the pattern I want and I'm able to remove this. So very simple. So yeah, great question. So if you have questions, chime in. Now on this lateral, here's one growing on top and growing straight up. I'm going to take that one off entirely. So it just boils down to making some decisions about what to leave, what to cut off. Let's see, this one is growing almost straight up. So I'm going to come back and take that one off back there. So something else you can do also with your prunings from apple trees or peach trees, save them for using on the barbecue too. So great chips for smoking meat with. This one is kind of growing back up the other way into the canopy, so I'm going to take it off. This branch has sustained some damage from the storms. This tree actually got pulled over. It didn't get uprooted, it was just laying over, so I've had to straighten it back up. So let's take that one off now. Now it's starting to thin out a little bit. Okay, now we're getting into a situation on this side where there's a lot of vertical growth and there's a lot of damage right here. And that's from the hurricane. And I am going to go ahead and remove that, and I'm going to use my pruning saw for it. It's a little big for loppers and hand pruners. So let me grab my pruning saw. And if you can see where the branch is attached to the main trunk, there's kind of a swollen area right here at the base of the branch. That's the branch collar. Here's the bark ridge right on top. And it's almost like you're looking at kind of an imaginary line, but there's a little swollen area right here. I'm going to cut as parallel to that as possible. So it looks like my cutting line is going to be right along here. And nice green cambium under there. Woo! Here we go. All right, there we go. So again, we want to encourage the trees to make laterals instead of verticals. So, and it looks like we have 3 here that are competing with one another to be the central leader. Let me think about that one for a second, and I'll come over here to this side, and we'll go ahead and I think I can get this one with hand pruners. This one's not only growing straight up, but it's cluttering the canopy, the interior of the canopy, so I'm going to remove it entirely. And yes, I probably am cutting off some flower buds, but in the long run, the tree will actually be more productive. It'll make more. I'm not worried about that. So it actually has produced fruit before. So we got lucky a couple years ago with it. So let's see. 1, 2, 3. There we go. And 3. All right. And so this looks promising right here. That looks like a flower bud right there. See how different it is from a vegetative bud. It's up on this little spur right there. So let's see if we can get it to make another one of those right there. Let's see, that's growing straight up, so I think I'll remove this one. So again, we're just removing all this vertical growth and opening up the interior of the tree. Yeah. Let's see, now we might be able to head this one back. So let's do a heading cut on this one and see if we can train it. Okay, I like right about there. Okay, so we've got a bud pointing out, and there we go, heading cut. All right, so see, we've already cleared out the interior of this tree tremendously. This tree is going, whoo! Okay, here's another branch that has sustained a lot of damage from the storm. So I might wind up coming back in at a later time and just taking this whole branch off right back here. I'm going to leave it for now and just take this section off that has significant damage to it. Just opens it up to fungal infections and all kinds of things we don't want to come back and deal with later. Okay, heading cut. Let's see. Let's find a bud that's growing outward. Heading cut. All right. Okay, so let's head this one back and see what it does. All right. Yeah, I like it. I like it. Okay, here's one. We'll start training this one this summer, but for right now, we've got an issue here where it forks and they're both competing to be leaders. And I don't want either one of them to be a leader. So I'm going to come up and nip these back. 1, 2, 3. Well, let me go up one because that bud is facing outward. There we go. Okay, much better. And here's one on the interior that's going to come off entirely. In fact, I think that whole branch right here might come off. This whole branch right here. Because it's just giving what I want to be the central leader too much competition. There's a little spot right there I'll have to keep an eye on. So, in fact, what I might do is just come back to here. There we go. And then if I decide later I want to take this off, that's no problem right there. Okay, so okay, so we want to control height. Let's get this one right there. And right there. Okay, that's looking more promising. And so we'll be able to come in this season and straighten this one up some more, although it isn't horrible now. Okay, so it looks like I've got a 3-fer up here for a central leader, and we don't want that. So let's let me go in another way. There we go. Ah! Don't do that. Make sure the cut goes all the way through. There we go. All right, and I think I'm going to get rid of this taller one. Now, there you go. Oh yeah, much better, much better. Okay, so now let's do another heading cut there. And again, I'm cutting back to a bud. And remember why you do heading cuts. You are removing the terminal bud, which really suppresses lateral branch growth. And the name of the game is getting those laterals or those scaffold branches to come out. I'm going to take that one off entirely. There we are. Now that's more like it. Now I can come back here and head this one back to there. And let me walk around this way. Heading cut. And okay, there's the bud pointing outward, so heading cut. All right. Now we've made the central leader a lot more identifiable there. So that's a goal. So now I think I'm just going to lop off that top one on the central leader, do a heading cut on it, and you know what I'm going to do? here's what I'm going to do. Watch this. Boom. There we go. I like that a lot better. Let me get on this side and kind of clean that one up. So, because we've controlled height and we sort of redefined the central leader. So these will put out laterals, and that's what we want. So. Okay, so much better, much better. So let's come back in here and head these heading cut, and these are all pretty much the same. So I think I'm going to leave those alone. So for this tree, that's quite a bit of material to remove. We did a lot of thinning cuts, removing entire branches, and we also came in and did a lot of heading cuts. So right now we just need to wait for leaf out and see what it's going to look like when the foliage fills in. But it does look like we're going to have a few flowers here and there, and hopefully some fruit. The trick with these polyploids, the triploids that need a pollinator, is if the others, the horse apples and the summer bananas and all that, if they flower at the same time, then we can be assured that some cross-pollination is going to occur. So there you go. I think we'll leave that stamen tree as is. Probably some more cuts we could make on it, but again, we can always come back during the season and do some summer pruning, which just sort of reinforces the shape and thins out the canopy a lot more. So okay, so we'll move on to one of the other ones here. Let me grab my pruning saw here. So remember, if you were with us earlier, we were looking at a variety called Summer Banana on dwarfing rootstock. This is Summer Banana on semi-dwarfing rootstock, and this thing has just gone nuts. I've actually picked apples off this tree. There's another Summer Banana straight ahead here. In fact, I got those two to function as cross-pollinators for the horse apple. Now, for those of you who don't know what horse apple is, here in Louisiana, horse apple might mean Osage orange or bodock. You probably have heard horse apple, that fruit called horse apple. There is actually a green summer apple called horse apple. It predates 1800, so it's an old apple. And that's what I was actually trying to see see what would grow here. But this Summer Banana has just shown out. So the goal is going to be the same. We want to thin out the canopy, the interior of the canopy, while getting the tree to produce as many laterals as we can. So again, I'm going to make a certain number of cuts, and then I might let it stand until we see what it looks like after leaf out. We'll let the canopy fill in and see how it looks. And then if I need to do any more to it, we can always do that. So with a tree like this, it's kind of hard to know where to start. There's so much vigor here. I think I see, I'm going to start with one that is growing almost vertically. Let's see if I can kind of, so we'll start there. And this one is growing up into the interior of the tree. I'm going to take it off entirely. So, all right, let's see. We'll head this one back. This is going to be a heading cut. There's a good bud facing me. So there we go. And let me come around here. Heading cut. I think I'll leave. Yeah. Here's an example of a branch that's crossing, and it's going to get tangled up in these, so I'm just going to take that one off. Let's see what to do here. It's often, the decision is kind of hard to make sometimes. Let's head that one back there. Let's head that one back here. Anything on the interior, we have kind of a jumble right here. So let's thin that out. Here's one growing straight up. That's going to come off. And I've got one here that's crossing this one. So let's take that one off. And let's see. We'll kind of clean these up here. So, okay, here's another branch that's crossing under this one. And let's get rid of that one too. So, okay, another crosser right here. There we go. Yep. Okay, so here's a good scaffold branch that is just right for training. Let me jump on the other side of this line here. And we'll head it back. Head it back. Yeah. And okay, so when I pull this branch down, here's one going straight up, so we don't want that. So we'll let that one go. Okay, here's one that's really tangled up. This branch is going to get mixed up with this branch. And in all honesty, what do I want to do here? Let's go ahead and take this one off. Just a very vigorous tree. This is a variety that I had no idea it was going to be this vigorous. So, but I'm glad it is. So all these small ones on the interior in here. Really paying attention to the interior of the tree. Okay, here's one growing straight down. Actually, it's been broken off, so there we go. All right, crossing, so that has to go. All right, anything growing back toward me, toward the interior, is going to come out. We want to really clean it out on the interior of the canopy. So, okay. And now we're up to a situation where we have a branch that has a nice lateral coming out with two verticals. And so I'm going to switch out for my loppers. And let's get this one. Let's see if I can get in there to it. Looks like right about there. Okay. Timber. Okay, so there's our lateral that should come on out. Okay, so now let's give it some room. Here's one that has branched off and is growing over here under this one and crossing. I'm gonna cut it back. That one's on top, that one's on top. Here's a situation where a lateral is crossing laterals. So, out. And then anything growing straight up is going to be...
Well, the small branches you were cutting off, regrow as in sprout again?
I hope not. And if they do, we'll just have to come in and thin them out again. Again, the goal is to get the interior cleaned out. So the tree, any tree, not just these, but any fruit tree will compensate. Okay, so if you take it away, it's going to try to replace it. We're just trying to sort of trick the tree into putting the resources, the energy, and the products of photosynthesis into these laterals, because that's where your fruit production is going to take place. So anything growing perfectly straight up, perfectly vertical, is probably just going to be vegetative, and it's going to crowd the canopy out. It's going to not promote good air circulation and sunlight penetration. And again, with fruit trees, any kind of fruit tree, you're trying to farm the sun. Whereas in a vegetable garden, you might think about farming the soil. But our goal is to treat the leaves here like solar panels and harvest as much energy from the sun as possible. And that's going to happen on these laterals.
Someone says, I have a tree that has 3 thick main branches all growing at the same height on the trunk, almost like a fork. The 3 of them going up. Should I get rid of the 2 side branches?
Yeah, so I would select the one that looks the healthiest, not necessarily the ones on the side. If it is one on the side, you can take away the other 2. It doesn't have to be on the side, but if you're trying to prune to a central leader system, yes. Just pick one you want to keep and nix the other 2. So.
Has this tree been pruned previously?
Oh yeah. And again, this just might be a difference in rootstocks. They seem to feather out a lot differently on the semi-dwarfing rootstocks than on the dwarfing rootstocks at the house. It seems like on this one, trying to get one main central leader was just impossible. So, but yeah, it's they've been pruned before. I didn't do anything to them the first year, but I started the second year. So.
How old are these trees?
So the summer bananas and most of the horse apples were planted in December of 2016. So 4 years out here, and they were 1-year-old trees when I got them in. So total of 5 years old, in the ground 4 years. Here's something growing back toward the interior. There's one on top. Here's one that's crossing over. On top, on top, on top. So, and it might seem pretty ruthless, but these scaffold branches are really going to be the payoff here. See, this one's kind of growing back into the canopy, so let's get it. And you also have to think about if it's a spur producer or if it produces on the tips. Yes, we are trimming away flower buds and therefore fruit, potential fruit. But the tree will compensate for that. Okay, so now it looks like I really haven't done anything to that tree. So let's see. I want to start thinking in terms of bringing the overall height down, and I think I'm going to switch over to my loppers for that, and we'll start taking out some of these more robust branches that are growing straight up. So there's one right here. And there's one right here, although it looks like I might have some flower buds on it. I'm not going to take it all the way out, but looks like I need to sharpen my coronas. Okay, now, yeah, see how that has thinned the canopy out tremendously. And And we'll get rid of this one since it's growing back toward the interior. Okay, and this one. So, getting there, getting there. There we go. Crossovers. Interior. Okay. Vertical so it comes out. Okay, this one would shade the two below it, so I'm gonna get rid of that one. All right. And so it looks like on this tree, I want this one to be the central leader. So I think what I'm going to do is come in down here and take this one off right there. Yes, after looking at it from that side. Let's see. Let's see if I can get these coronas to do that without causing a gaping wound. Pow. All right. Yeah, so I'm going to have to sharpen these coronas. Okay, and the other side there looks like it's going to get pretty high too, so out she comes. Pow. All right. So now that's leaving us with this more robust center right there. So, as you're working on your own fruit trees, you see some trees are just going to need more attention than others, and that's perfectly fine. No two trees are going to be identical, and you're not going to hurt them. Let's see, let's bring that one down to there. Okay. And you also have to think about how accessible the fruit are going to be. So you don't want a bunch of fruit way up there where you can't reach them. You want to be able to get to the fruit. So again, encouraging the tree to grow laterals or scaffold branching. Scaffold branches is the way to go. Okay, so still some crossovers. Let's get this one right there. And that's better than it was. We could just make a day out of this one, it seems like. Now, if we really started getting aggressive with training, we could pull this branch down and start getting it to grow more horizontal. And so, okay. So there's one growing back toward the interior. Now I think at this point, I might be ready to try the pole trimmers because that's really a lot. That's about as high as I'd want the tree, to be honest with you. And I might need to bring it down some. So on the top, come out, and just cutting off some of these top ones really brings the height down quite a bit. Okay, so this one's good to go. Let's try. Whoop, that one and that one. Okay, there we go. Lateral. Yeah, let's go ahead and get this one up. All right. So, a lot of growth, a lot of growth. Cutting back to a bud, heading cut. We'll take that one off entirely. And let's see. Can come down to another bud on that one. Okay, to one to right there. And okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to come back to this lateral. And I think there's one growing on top, that comes out. Yes, so let me come back to this one. Boom. Okay. Okay, yeah, that really opens that up. I can deal with that. Much better, much better. Yeah, much more open now. So hopefully you can see the interior is a lot more open than it was. And that's one thing we're shooting for. We still have these smaller ones that are growing on top. Okay. And we're putting out laterals both. So if we start looking at this side branch, we're putting out laterals below and even laterals above. And it looks like at some point this is trying to compete with the main stem. So I'm going to take that branch off entirely. And so let's see if I can get up here to it. There we go. Pow. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that central leader is a lot more defined now. I'm liking that. And so we'll do a few more heading cuts on some of these taller ones. Let's see. Heading cut. Okay, here's one that's double and don't want those really competing with one another. So let's see, let's come back to right there. Right there. Get rid of that interior and head this one back to a bud. And let's see if we can do this one. Let's see. Oh wow, okay. 20% battery, so let's do this. Should have used the loppers on this one. Okay, there we go. That's a huge vertical. Okay, so Yes, a lot more open. And we've redefined the central leader. And so I think what I'm going to do the next cut is come down some distance on that central leader and head it off and encourage more laterals. So, want us to go ahead and
We can try.
and
Either way.
okay, so we're losing battery power rapidly. We're way out here in the middle of nowhere, so we can do this real quick. You see how down here around the rootstock, they're putting up little shoots, so we can go ahead and take these off too, because they'll just zap energy from okay, good, much better. Okay, so should we call it a tree? Okay, so I think we'll call this one done. I am going to come back and head that central leader down a little more, but I hope you've seen that with pruning fruit trees, it doesn't matter if it's apple, peach, pear, plum, whatever you happen to have here in North Louisiana anyway, that no two trees are going to require the identical cuts in terms of type and number, but also hopefully you have a little more confidence now to go out and do the same thing in your home orchard. Again, you're wanting to thin the canopy to maximize air circulation and light penetration, and those are your two goals. You also want to think about your 3 Ds: disease, damaged, and dead. That's material that should come out first, and then you can start looking at your central leader system versus an open vase system. So I think with that we'll call this one done, and say thanks for joining us. If you have questions, feel free to shoot me an email. This is Kerry Hefner with the LSU Ag Center. Thanks a lot.